gamers? Today on Dice and Dragons, we are going to be reviewing Terminator Genisys Rise of the Resistance. Now, before I tell you who's behind this game, we are going to introduce ourselves. For those of you that have never watched our channel before, I'm Jason.
And I'm Julie.
Now let's talk about the designers and publishers of the game. Now, there are a lot of people behind it. This game was produced under license by Skynet Productions. It was published by Riverhorse. The miniatures and a lot of the design work as well, I think in terms of the components, was by ALC Studio. And the game design and gameplay was done by Lynnvander Studios, nice Canadian company. More specifically, Josh Dirksen, Thomas M. Grofton, and Aaron Murch. Now that I've got all of that out, let's let Julie tell you more about the game itself.
So it's a cooperative game that is intended for 1 to 4 players, but it soon will be expandable to 5 with an upcoming expansion.
Yeah, the Fall of Skynet expansion was supposed to come out at the same time. They delayed it to get this game into people's hands before Christmas, and I do appreciate that.
So it's a 60 to 90 minute game. Is intended for ages 14 and above, though I think you could probably get away with, I believe, 12 and above.
Yeah, you could even do maybe a little younger if you have a kid that's played some miniature games in the past. I don't think there's anything in the game that really necessitates 14 and above, besides the theming a little bit if your kid would be scared of Terminator. And that makes sense. It did start out as an R-rated property there.
Yeah. So Jay, I think you have some things that you want to say about this video.
Yes, I am going to tell you guys just quickly about some changes we're making to the video. But before we do that, let's tell you guys what you're actually doing in this game. So, the game, it is similar to a dungeon crawler. You can play this campaign or skirmish style. There are rules for both, which I think is pretty cool. Essentially what you're doing is you've got your 4 miniatures. You need to complete your mission objective, and then if you're playing campaign mode, you get some nice rewards to carry on through the storyline of the game. Or skirmish mode, you just get your nice victory. Similar to other dungeon crawlers like Descent and Imperial Assault. Now, the differences with regards to this video. What I wanted to do was do our long form videos for a year. We are now past the year mark. You will see a 1-year anniversary coming up. I will tell you more about the changes in the channel update that was just released. So if you're curious, please go check it out. But what we're essentially doing is we're going to keep giving you guys the same content that you have in the review videos. We're just going to slim it down. So we will take a look at the components. We're going to go over how to play, but it's going to be really not an abridged version, but just sort of abbreviated so you get the gist as to what you need to know, whereas the longer, in-depth how to play and components will be released as a separate video. Now, we got all that out. Let's keep moving on and let's get this game to the table. So what are we going to do, Julie?
We're going to grab our drinks.
Grab our drinks. Grab our best friend. I'm taking it to the table.
You're looking forward to this, aren't you?
I'm definitely looking forward to this. I was hoping to have the Fall of Skynet because you get some other characters in there too. And we kind of know the story of the Resistance. I mean, they send the guy back in time. They send the Terminator back in time. So seeing the storyline actually defeating Skynet is something that I was looking forward to. There are also some cool female characters that I know that you always like playing with at least one female character. And there are some of my favorites, especially when she stole my favorite from Street Masters. Now we're going to take a look at the components for Terminator Genisys Rise of the Resistance. Now, we'll start with the 2 things I don't have on camera. The rules, as you can see, nice breakdown, explanation for solo play, the components, and then it'll take you quickly through how to play the game. So far, I've had a good experience with the rules. And the other book that you're going to get in the box is the mission book. So as you can see, the setup for the missions, enemy pool, and some nice fiction. Even got some nice fiction on the back here. And to explain how we're going to do this, we're just going to quickly move left to right, taking a look at the different components. Now we're going to start with our player characters. You notice that their abilities are all different. We've got Kyle Reese, John Connor, our Guardian, the Terminator. Gotta love that character. And Alex the Hacker, who, for those of you that can recognize this character, was played by Matt Smith in the movie and is Skynet. We then have our 4 hero miniatures right here. You can just take a look at them. John, I believe this is Guardian right here. We've got Alex and, of course, Kyle. Here we've got our player color markers. So this tells you what color your player is. And when they're ready to act, these are also double-sided. You can just flip it over to say done, as in they've acted, and their own grenade token. Now, here we've got the tiles that you're going to be using. And as you'll see, there are 4 different types of tiles. We've got the large, small, the horizontal, and the vertical tiles. As you can see, they can all just line up depending on how they're placed. Now here we've got the class cards. There's a variety of them. We're not going to spend too much time. But as you can see, as you play through the game, you can level up. Quartermaster gives you new ability, additional equipment slot. We have some allies that we can get in the game. The Resistance Soldier. We've got a nice mini for them here. And as we've been going on about the colors, I'll jump over here a little bit. You can see these different colored rings, which you'll use to associate with different miniatures, such as this blue Resistance Soldier, as well as the enemies. Now, we're moving into the enemies. You'll see that we've got the enemy cards, which shows you, boss enemy cards, T1000, T800 Flamethrower, T800 Commander, and then your 3 standard villains. So we've got the 3 standard enemies in the back, and we've got the boss ones right here, like the T1000. We've got our boss cards right here, and these tracking tokens. Haven't really got to that part of the game yet. Here we've got the weapons. Now just to show you guys a little bit what you get, there's higher level weapons, level 3, level 2, level 1, and of course your starting weapon. Now obviously upgrading stuff is very important. We've got the equipment cards, and the equipment cards can be things such as heavy armor, uncommon weapons, meaning you discover a weapon, pretty good, and even heavy weapons. You can also, I got all the weapon cards out there, and we're not going to go any much more into that. Let's just cut the deck and see if we find something. More armor, and you can get other supplies like stim packs and med kits. Now, we've talked about the base color rings. These will also go around the miniatures to associate when they activate with which player. Here we just have our other tokens. So we have the truck. You can see the reference card for the truck. We've got the blast doors. These are also double-sided to represent cover. We have the cover token right here. This is your supply crate, and it's also a computer terminal. You'll see that the computer terminal rules are here, also double-sided to talk to you about the supply crate. We have a tracker for truck damage, the turn sequence marker. We have these different enemy entrance points. You notice they're associated to a die. They are also double-sided with the light and the heavy side, and that may be associated to the waypoints that you're interacting with. We've got the rank tokens, which are double-sided. You can use these rank tokens to reroll dice. We have the player dice, which match their color. There's 4 of them. Just didn't take them out. The damage tokens, which aren't double-sided. We have the attack dice right here. You'll see more about it in the how to play. And then the 2 dice for rolling the spawning of enemies. And let's just quickly take a look at some of the enemy miniatures and get a chance to show you. So the HK drone, T800. We showed you the T1000. We will also show you our HK72 drone. And then, of course, the 2 T800 commanders. Flamethrower and the commander here. And there you have it. Just a quick rundown of the components. So now we're going to jump into our quick version of the how to play. For those of you wanting to see something more detailed, don't forget we're going to be doing a detailed look at the components and the how to play in a forthcoming video. So keep it right here, and we're going to be rushing through time to bring you the how to play. And we're going to take a quick look at how to play Terminator Genisys Rise of the Resistance. Now, this is not an actual mission. I've just set stuff up so you guys can see, and we're going to really go through this quickly. Now, when you are going to be setting up the game, you will be following the mission setup, setting up the board, and setting up the enemy pool. For this case, we have a blue and a white player with Kyle Reese and John Connor, and I just built a small enemy pool. Now, how do you play the game? Well, first thing you're going to do is you're going to start rolling the dice. You'll notice that in many scenarios, no enemies start on the board, and that's the case for this one. But before we start getting into how to play, this glowing blue outline here details different zones. And it's very important, as characters may have some abilities that they can use when they're in the same zone as another player. An interaction with a supply crate, for example, is a lot more beneficial when you've got two players in the same zone. Now, I don't have the reference cards. I'll go over it quickly because I know the rules. But if you're ever wondering how to interact with stuff, it is either going to be in the mission book that we just looked at or on the reference card. Now, we're going to start with Kyle. Actually, you know what? We're starting with John Connor because of John Connor's abilities here, which let other characters in his zone use a die, and that's very important. So we'll roll the dice and we start playing them. Now, the values on the dice don't necessarily matter. However, they can provide us with a benefit. As you can see for the weapon here, on a 5 or a 6, if the die is assigned there, you may reroll one result. But a 3, a 1, or a 2 will work just as well. And you'll see we set up the characters with their weapon, starting equipment, the rank tokens, which allow us to do rerolls of our action dice, and then any other tokens that we need. Now, what we want to do is probably interact with this supply crate, because when you interact with the supply crate, it requires a 4, 5, or a 6, and it gives equipment to players in the same zone. And as you'll notice, Kyle and John are in the same zone now. So we're going to move, John's right here. We can move 4. Now, the way this works is when we assign our die, depending on what we're doing, we take the value for movement. So you can see there are 2 movement slots. It is 4. We can move up to this value. So we can move 1, 2, 3, 4. We're adjacent to the supply crate. We can also stand on it to use it as cover. These obstacle spaces require 2 hexes to move through. Same for the enemies as well. It requires a 4 on an interact for us to interact with the crate. We now open the crate. It is removed. So you can see the crates can also be computer terminals. We then draw these starting 2 equipment cards, which in this case is really good, and I hadn't changed it from taking a look at stuff. So we draw a card from the weapon deck, and then we either draw an uncommon weapon, a level 2, or a level 3 weapon, getting ourselves fairly well equipped at the beginning. This is very important. I'm now going to just get rid of these cards. We'll go through the weapon deck, and we'll draw the first one, which is a plasma rifle. And this shouldn't even be in there. As you see, it's level S. So we're going to get rid of it. The starting weapons do not go into the weapon deck. I just had them there from sorting. All right, so we get a sniper rifle. And then, I'm just going to place that here. We have to look for a level 2 or a level 3 weapon. We get a plasma rifle. So those are the 2 weapons that we got. And they'll now be assigned to our players. I'm just going to move Kyle's dice. And because they're in the same zone, each of them can gain the equipment card. Now in this case, I'm going to give John the plasma rifle, and as we're in the same zone, Kyle Reese gets the sniper rifle. Now you may find equipment like a med kit or another plasma canister. Now we've got these other dice, so 3 and 3. Well, what's going to happen is I'm going to assign the 3 to movement because that's the only thing we can do, and in this scenario, I just want us to interact with the 2 objectives. In the rulebook, in most cases, interacting with objectives requires a 4, 5, or 6, meaning this 3 is not going to cut it. Now, there is a rest action, and if we take damage, I will talk about that. But John's special ability, for example, I can assign this 3 right here, and what that means is that Kyle, if he's in the same zone as me, will be able to use it by moving 3, 2, 3 towards the waypoint. Now comes the enemy phase where we're going to have to spawn enemies. And there's a good chance we might not spawn any enemies actually. And that does happen early on in the game. We do roll the enemy spawn dice. And we see what happens. So we rolled a 6 and a 3, meaning no enemies would spawn. That's a great roll early on. We're able to complete our objective. Skynet has not located us. However, though, if we had, for example, rolled a 4 and a 3, it would only be 1 enemy that would spawn here. If it was a 4 and a 1, it could potentially be 2 enemies. Now, often these things will change. They will flip over to a heavy side. And you can see on a 5 or a 4, you would spawn 2 enemies. in this case, as I'm teaching you guys how to play, we're going to assume that I rolled a 4 and a 3. Now, John is the white player. We then spawn the first enemy. Now, what's important is we spawn first, and then all the enemies move and interact. Now, you will find the details about the HK8 here, and you will see that and we'll pick up the card just so you can see it better. You'll see its defense rating, what we need to hit it, its movement, its range of attack, and its attack value. Now, some enemies, and you'll notice that we have it for the T-800 and the enemy platform, does not have this special ability that will trigger when we are attacking them. For example, this one is dodge. So if at least one Terminator symbol is rolled, when defending, you cancel one hit. We need to roll 2 hits. And in this case, you can move 8. So you can move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, as he's got a range of 2, no one is in range or danger of getting hit. Whereas if you look at the platform here, range of 12 and a range of 6. You then slide the enemies up the track, because once this guy's defeated, he goes back into the pool, meaning there is a constant stream of enemies. It is now Kyle's turn. And let's see what we want to do. Well, we've got some good rolls here. We also have an interesting gun. We do have line of sight on the HK drone, because we can draw a straight line from either the corner of our hex or any part of the hex to the drone. And let's see if we can actually attack it. We can use our regular weapon here, the plasma assault rifle, which will let us reroll 1 as a result, but we only get to roll 3 attack dice. Range of 6. We have the sniper rifle, which lets us roll 4 attack dice with a range of 5 to 12, meaning anything close range we can't use it. Now, these attack symbols are where you can assign dice, so as you can see, you can attack twice with this weapon. Because our characters have 2 weapons, they can attack, potentially 4 or even up to 5 times, because you can see, John Connor's dice. If Kyle had that weapon, he could use that die plus his 4 die to attack 5 times. Now, this weapon's attack deals an extra wound, and then on a 5 or a 6, each of your fist results add 1 damage in addition to triggering abilities. Now, the fist abilities are listed right here. If it comes up, we'll talk about them, but some can be when attacking, others can be when defending. Let's see what we want to do. Well, we already deal 1 damage. We roll 4 dice. We can easily just use our 1 here to attack with the sniper rifle. The range of the guy is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's within 5. You'll then take our 4 attack dice, and let me just move these guys off the board and see what happens. Now, we do not actually need to track damage for these enemies. They only take 1 hit. Bosses actually do require damage. Now, in this case, we have the Terminator that is ruled, meaning you would cancel out 1 of the hits. We have 2 hits, 3 hits. The sniper rifle is very good for this. It would deal an extra hit. Plus, we've got a fist, which means when attacking, we add 1 hit to it. So in this case, boom, this thing just gets annihilated. Kyle sniped it. It goes back in the enemy pool. We're going to remove these dice because we don't need them. Now let's see what else we want to do this turn. We also have this special one, special action space for Kyle, which this action space copies an attack action space on one of your weapons. So in this case, yeah, Kyle could actually have attacked 5 times. It's pretty cool. That space lets him do that. You'll notice his infinite ability, special ability, means that he can move freely through these block spaces. But we got to move. Typically in this game, you do want to try to stick together. He's going to move 11, though, because he wants to get over to waypoint alpha, meaning we're not going to use John's dice per se. We're going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And that is the max movement that we've done. If we do end here, for example, though, and we had something else we wanted to do, like interact or rest, if we taken a damage, and actually let's take a look at that. What would happen? Now, if you're damaged, you can spend 1 die to rest and remove that damage. Now, if your character is downed, defeated, another hero that, for example, is adjacent to you can spend their rest action 2, pick you back up, and you would remove 1 damage. Now let's just put everything back where it was. And in this case, we've got a 4 that we can't really spend. So maybe moving here was not the best idea. We probably would have been better off from here moving 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9, 10 if we wanted to. And then spending this 4 as an interact to reveal the waypoint. Meaning we now gain the waypoint. Well, sorry, I had them flipped the wrong way. Typically you have the waypoints upside down. You don't know what they are. Just teaching you guys how to play. We've got delta and alpha. And the case of this one would be, let's say we get the waypoint, what we needed, some supplies, something like that. You would place it, on your hero. I'm just going to place it underneath the plasma canister. And then it would flip the enemy entrance point to the heavy side, meaning we're going to have a chance for some more enemies to spawn. What I'm actually going to do, just because based on where the guys are, is I'm going to set up cover just to show you guys what will happen if we happen to be in cover. And let's flip this the other way. See, we moved into cover, which could cost an extra movement, but that doesn't affect Kyle. Now, everything's been used. Can't really use this die. Don't need to make an attack. It's time to re-roll for enemies. In this case, we rolled 2 3s. Great roll. No one's going to show up. But I want to show you guys what will happen. Let's say that we rolled a 5 and a 1. In this case, we would spawn T800 here. And note they can stand in the half axis. That's where they spawn. We will then spawn the HK drone here. We do get to pick where we spawn the enemies, leaving only the drone platform. Now we're going to move, and this guy's flying, so we can fly over the top of obstacles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just out of range of John Connor, but our T800 without moving is in range. Now, we don't have to worry about his relentless ability. It is not, we're not the ones attacking. His attack is 3. We take 3 attack dice and re-roll them. And in this case, this hit counts as a miss. The fist means we could trigger our ability. None of these are defensive abilities. It means that he scores 2 hits. Now, what would then happen is we're in cover. As we are in cover, hits go on the cover first. Now, if the damage exceeds the cover's armor rating, it is destroyed. So in this case, our cover is destroyed. But, luckily enough, Kyle takes no damage. And that would be the enemy's turn. If he was out of range, he would have moved, and he has a movement of 4. And that goes back to our hero's turn. And this is going to be the last thing that I really go over. Meant to do this, but didn't really get a chance to. Didn't think about it. After your guys are activated, you're supposed to flip it over to done. And then once they're ready again, start the next turn. Flip it over, symbolize that your heroes are ready. Clear their dice off where they've been placed. And you're good to go. Now what then happens on every player's turn is, well, at the start of the player's turn, you get to decide who goes first, then you go clockwise around there. The importance of that is based on who is going to activate. And in this case, Kyle's got good weapons, but if he activates first, so do his enemies if they're not destroyed in the enemy phase. Meaning John is a better bet to have activate because he's got a chance to kill them before they can even retaliate. I'll just put this 4th die here. And let's see what John gets. Let's roll the dice. He got some good stuff. We have our plasma rifle, which is the upgraded version of the assault rifle. You'll see why you may want to use this one. On a 3, 4, 5, or 6, you may re-roll 1 result. Now, I do like that. We've got a 3. It's our worst die. Let's assign it there. And let's try to take out the HK. Now, in this case, he's automatically going to dodge 1. Not because that's his ability. We're not going to deal enough damage. And we may automatically re-roll 1 result from our 3. We get 2. but that still is not enough to beat his defense rating. Not very good. Let's try with our 4. And this time we score a nice big hit. We defeat the HK. But we only got a few more dice left that we can use. Move 6. 1, 2. Yeah, so, sorry. You can move through players. I believe I might have put, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We do have a straight line of sight on the T800. We'll assign the 5 to this rifle. It actually doesn't really matter at this point. We're going to re-roll our 3. Hopefully we get lucky. Well, in this case, it's a great roll. We do defeat the T800, but before that we trigger his ability Relentless. So if at least one Terminator skull is rolled when defending, move 1x closer to the nearest character, then one adjacent character suffers 1 wound. Luckily, he's not adjacent to anyone. No one would suffer a wound, and he would be defeated. And that would be John's entire turn. And we don't have anything that Kyle can use. He's not in the same zone, just potentially the rank token. Now let's spawn the enemies. We get a 1 and a 2, and that is perfect. I wanted to show this off, and we'll not spawn another enemy. Now with the T-72 platform, the danger with this one is if the enemy can attack without moving, it makes 2 attacks. Now it's going to be attacking twice, and has a range of 12, an attack of 2. We get to make the decisions. It's a co-op. He could take a shot at each of our players. But first, he's going to start with Kyle. Let's see what happens. Likely enough, it's 2 misses. T-72 is irritated. Going to attack again. So 1 miss and 1 hit. And Kyle Reese has taken damage. And what we're going to do here for our last little bit, we'll take you through Kyle's turn very quickly. Probably won't do the enemy phase. And then we will go on to a review of the game. So we're going to roll, not the best roll here, but we can use our weapons. Now we can't use the sniper rifle right now until we move. So we're going to want to move first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got very long range of up to 12. We'll assign the 1 die rate to this guy. Roll the dice. Now he does not have any ability here. So straight up Annihilated goes to the back. We're going to want to spend the 2 on Arrest. Now, this isn't good enough for any type of interact action, but we can use it to move 2 to get close to Alpha to interact again. And then we would once again do the enemy spawn. I'll just roll it, see what happens. So in this case, it's a 6 and a 5. We'd spawn 1 guy right here. And then he'd move toward the closest character. 1, 2, 3, 4. If we take a look, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, he actually does have range, so be careful, guys. He does have range. Let's see if he hits Kyle. And in this case, it is a complete miss. Great roll. Heroes are in good spot to obtain Alpha and get the heck out of here. Now, we didn't show you any of the equipment. Let's just take a look at it. So with the medical kit, when you rest, discard this card to remove all wounds from yourself or an adjacent character, meaning you can remove up to 2 wounds, because you cannot make a rest action when you are downed. And with the plasma canister, on your turn, discard this card to remove all action dice from 1 weapon card and re-roll them. Great way to get and use more dice. Now, this is essentially what you're going to be doing in the game. Moving, completing objectives. There is the truck and other stuff that you're going to be able to use. You're going to be also fighting bosses, but this is just our quick version of it. We will be doing a more in-depth how to play probably of the first mission, the tutorial. May not see any of the bosses, so I'll take a look and maybe we'll do something a little more complicated. But keep it right here as we're going to travel to the future instead of back in time and bring you our review. Terminator Genisys Rise of the Resistance. What did you think of the game?
So it was interesting. It's an interesting game in the senses, as we discussed in the intro. It's a little bit like a dungeon crawl. You've got your miniatures and you're going looking for stuff.
You get upgrades. One of the things you do like a lot.
Yeah. So I enjoyed that. I'm going to put it out there, and I think it's like when I said for The Walking Dead. I'm not a huge Terminator fan. I mean, I've watched the movies. I enjoyed them, but it's not something that thoroughly motivates me or engages me. So the theme for me, it doesn't add anything to this game. What I did enjoy working cooperatively with you, and I the big bads, as we like to call them for other games. So all the different machines definitely keep coming at you.
I felt that was very thematic. The fact that the machines just don't stop coming, which they talk a lot about in all the Terminator movies.
Yeah. I think for me, I mean, those are mainly the positives. The negative for me was that it didn't really feel. I mean, besides the theme, didn't feel any different from a lot of the games that we've played recently. It kind of felt like a lot of the same gameplay mechanic ideas, just with a Terminator theme. So I think what I would say for me is that if you love the Terminator and you don't have this kind of game already, then it's definitely something that you might want to add to your collection. For me, it was like, yeah, this is fun. I get it. It's just there are other games that we've played that the combination of the theme and the gameplay just had, had me a little bit more. I think part of the challenge that we have is that we see so many games that sometimes when if it's not necessarily all the chips line up, like in this case, the theme doesn't add anything for me. If this was a Harry Potter or X-Files or I don't know, something
fantasy themed.
no, well, at least one of the something like that. Hey, bring out an Outlander theme where basically they're trying to pick up all their resources and surviving against the
Well, that's a decent idea, at least with I can't quite see it. I don't know the storyline of the show, but survival games are getting pretty popular.
Yeah, so the point I'm trying to make is it's not a bad game. It's a great. I like the mechanics. I don't think that all the stars lined up or to make it for me something that's completely wow, I got to play this again.
No, but he didn't mention it had some similar mechanics. And did you enjoy the fact of the way like the dice rolling mechanics sort of combines with the dungeon crawler? I thought it was kind of interesting because we played some dice chucking games, and that was a different element that we don't see in a lot of dice crawlers. Just rolling your dice, assigning them to the board, and then being able to take your actions. Is that something that you liked, or is that something that you didn't enjoy?
You know what? In this case, it's something that I didn't enjoy as much. I don't mind rolling for the attacks. I kind of like that. As we saw in the gameplay when we played it, I was doing fairly well in the attacks.
Yeah, she was the Terminator. I mean, there was times I'm like, oh, well, we're in trouble unless you can kill these few guys. And no, she doesn't kill one. She kills, like, all of them. I'm like, what are you, a sniper here?
Yeah. So that part of it I enjoyed. I just found that there was a lot of the dice came up a lot, and that was maybe something for me that took a little bit away from it.
Okay. Now, my thoughts on the game. Now, I'm going to start talking about the components itself and the rulebook. As you guys know that watch the channel, that's primarily my domain. If Julie has anything to say about the components, she'll chime in. Now, let's start with the rulebook. I got to say, after the last few rulebooks that I've been learning, got to give Lynnvander big credit. The rulebook was simple, straightforward. Everything in the rulebook is well presented. It was not easy to find. We didn't really have too many questions. The only thing I didn't like about the rulebook is that some of the rules are actually on reference cards to give you like more details about supply crates and things like that. I would have just liked something that says, hey, for info on this, see the reference cards, because I was trying to figure it out and then I'm like, oh wait, it's right here in front of me. But it's not necessarily a detriment. It's like really the only thing I can say. The game was very easy to learn and easy to teach. Now, component-wise, I really do like the miniatures. There's a fair bit of detail. I do find that the T800 figures are a little bit bendable, and because of the space in the box, some of them did get bent, but it wasn't like they were getting close to being damaged. Also gives them a little bit of a different look, which I didn't mind, and it was easy enough to sort of just put a little pressure on them and have them go back to their original position. Now, the complaint that I do have is the cardboard. After having left the game out on the table as we were getting some plays in, the cardboard did warp. I did have to compress it under some books. And I did go back to its form, but it then warped a little bit again. So the cardboard is really my only complaint when it comes to the tiles. Now, I'm going to talk about what I really like about the game. Now, I really like the theme. I've always enjoyed the Terminator ever since T2, so this was a big plus for me. I do like the difficulty, actually. I found the fact that you can pick up characters and your characters can go down to be an actual good element. The fact that it does make the game hard, but it never quite takes you out of the game. And on with a 4-player game, I found that to be fairly balanced. I did a couple of learning games myself with just 2 heroes, and splitting up is not a good idea. I actually lost both of those games because characters just went down. It was kind of a pretty epic finish for us where we're standing outside the truck in the first mission and people keep getting shot down, and it was kind of like, come on, get in, I'm covering you. And it was an epic finish there. I know Julie got a little frustrated with it, but it was still pretty fun to finally
get on the truck.
drive off to victories. And there are some rules to balance the difficulty, which I thought was pretty cool as well. If you do want an easier or a more challenging experience, I like the way that the enemies activate. The fact that they activate on different heroes' turns was something that was pretty cool. And whereas Julie didn't like the dice rolling, I thought that was different. I like the fact that you're rolling dice, assigning them to abilities, and that only sometimes the actual die roll matters. I felt that made it so it was not as limiting as we've seen in other games. Mm-hmm. And and overall I enjoyed that. Also, having different attack dice was cool. And I did like the added threat of the enemies, whereas they can activate and retaliate against you. That means you got to really plan out your positioning and use a lot of strategy. Now, what I didn't necessarily like about the game is a little bit of some of the things that I actually liked about the game as well. I didn't like the way it played at less than 4 heroes. I found that you really have to stick together because if a character goes down, it's kind of like you're out. And that's one of the things that's a little frustrating. And I think the game is definitely more of a 2-player game, like 2 players each playing 2 heroes or 1 player playing 4 heroes. If you can manage all 4 heroes, I don't think you're going to have a problem. Or I've seen some threads on Board Game Geek, maybe 3, that might work as well. Having at least someone that can bounce between the 2 locations that you're trying to reach. And, I almost forgot, the fiction is very well done. The theme, the writing, the story, the way that they've presented this story, The Rise of the Resistance, that is another thumb up. Now, what I also didn't like per se about the game is, as Julie said, it feels a lot like other games that we have. For me, the theming is a plus and the fiction makes it stand out a little bit more. But if you have a dungeon crawler like Descent, if you have Zombicide, if you have some other cooperative games like Legends of Andor, this might not be a game that you're looking to add to your collection. However, if you want one of those with miniatures, with a very good story, and I'm not saying that some of them don't. A lot of them are a little thin on story, like Zombicide and Massive Darkness overall. You will be getting a good Terminator experience in this box with some really good components. I just found, like I said, that it was a little frustrating not being able to manage just 2 heroes, because when I'm playing solo, I find that that's really the way to go. And I think I've talked enough about the game's my dislikes and likes, but I have to say that overall, the game has far more positives than negatives. It is actually the one thing that some people may find negative, so it'll be my last con about the game, is it's a little simple in terms of combat. Now, that may mean that, it falls on one side for some people, or it falls on the positive side for other people. It's very easy to move and activate the miniatures and to know what you're doing during your turn in terms of dealing damage. And one thing I'll just stress, strategy-wise, I think we both agree, go for the objectives and pick up equipment. That is something that I made a mistake on a couple of plays. I did not pick up any equipment. Equipment is an absolute must in this game if you expect to survive. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm done talking about the game. I'm going to toss it back to Julie.
I was going to say, you know what? You rate it first.
I'm going to rate it first. Now, for me, what I'm going to say, I'm actually going to give this game an 8 on 10. I think it's solid. It's a lot of fun. It's a little easier to get to the table than some of the other games. And I do really like the class system, something that we did not talk about, how you upgrade your characters with different abilities and make them tougher between missions. We focus primarily on getting the game down by playing the tutorial. And that is a little extra element that I really do enjoy, something you don't see in games like Zombicide. So this is an 8.0, very solid game, and I think it's something you can play with a wide variety of people.
Yeah, for me it's a 6.5. Like I said, it didn't really get me going in any way to be like, oh yeah, I definitely want to play this again. It's a fun game. It gets a passing grade. It didn't wow me.
I think if we play it some more and you get some more abilities, one thing that people that watch the channel a lot know, the moment she hits like a truck, it's the moment she loves the game.
Can have an impact.
Yes. Now, you will be seeing forthcoming our fully detailed how to play and component review. That'll probably be coming out around the following Tuesday after we release this video. So for those of you wondering where that is, it is still forthcoming. Also, if we do get some more plays in over the weekend perhaps, and any commentary we have to add or our review scores change, we will definitely get back on that video and do a little review score adjustment. Now that may happen sometimes, but it may not happen at all. Now, what are we going to do next, Julie, or what should our viewers do?
Well, they can see some of the links to related videos above us.
Well, no, it's not above us. Now we've changed the shot. It's down below.
Okay, used to be above. You can like, comment, or subscribe. We always like hearing from you.
Yes. So now we are going to grab our drinks, grab our best friend.
We're going to keep playing games.
We are definitely going to keep playing games. I mean, we're going to keep coming for those games like the Terminators kept coming for us in this.
So is Sarah Connor's in the next one in the expansion? Is that it?
Well, now that's interesting because we are in the future. So Sarah Connor is in the past. Now they actually had...
That's the one character I remember besides the Terminator.
Well, it was actually, interesting fact, it was a licensing issue. Amelia Clark, who played Sarah Connor in Terminator Genisys, didn't want to let them use her likeness for the board game. So that's unfortunate. We don't have Sarah Connor, or she's better known as the Mother of Dragons, because she also plays Daenerys in this game. And they tried, and because it was the Terminator Genisys license, they couldn't get Linda Hamilton's version either.
Okay.
Well, we'll have some female characters. We'll let you guys know what we think about them in Fall of Skynet, the forthcoming expansion.